Hi, my name is Tom Wagner. I'm the oldest son of Tom and Wanda Wagner. On February 25th, 2016, there was a tragic accident in which my mother and my 99-year-old grandmother were involved. They were hit broadside by someone who was running a red light. They were immediately medevaced via the Trauma Hawk to St. Mary's Medical Center in the trauma unit. Once we, as a family, got to the emergency room, we very quickly learned of the severity of the accident. We learned that at that time it was determined my mother was paralyzed from the neck down. My grandmother was incredibly unstable and suffered several injuries. In speaking with the doctor that day, he indicated, first of all, that her neck was severely broken. The spinal cord was damaged but not severed, and therefore they were going to do a surgery that basically would put her neck back together. We also learned at that time that there would be no work done on the spinal cord. That is something that has to heal on its own. There's no procedure to make that, to heal that or to make that any better. We did learn at that time that due to the spinal cord injury, the paralysis that she had in her body, we would not know whether it would be permanent for at least 12 months, as there's a long period of recovery time for the spinal cord. My grandmother, after being in the hospital in the ICU for 5 days, passed away. And I say that almost with a little smile because my grandmother at 99 for several years had been so ready to go home and meet her father. She was really ready to go home and be in heaven. And so this, as tragic as it was, really was a homecoming for her. So as we progressed with my mom and realized the severity of the injuries, she went through her surgery. The surgery was effective. It put her neck back in alignment, and there were no complications there. My mom was in St. Mary's in the intensive care unit for approximately a month. She was incredibly unstable during her time there, and we could see very clearly the extent of her paralysis, as while she was there, she really had very, very little movement. She could move her shoulders up about that much, just a slight shoulder shrug. So the extent of her paralysis was just really horrific. She then moved from there to Kindred, which is a ventilator rehabilitation center. She was there for approximately 4 months. She was very sick off and on while she was there. She was very weak. It was a big, big effort and endeavor to get her off the ventilator. Finally, she was able to get off the ventilator and move on to what would have been her next set of care facilities. While she was at Kindred, though, some great things were happening. She was not only able to move her shoulders and her arms a little bit, but she actually was able to move her arms and do various things. She was able to start moving her fingers a little bit. She was able to start feeding herself a little bit. So they was just learning how to do that once again. So there for about 4 months. And then so at that point we began to prepare for her next step. And so now off to Jacksonville to the acute rehab facility. Before going there, though, we understood that she would never be able to make ground transportation via an ambulance to Brooks. That travel of 4 or 5 hours would just be too much for her and would just take its toll on her, and she wouldn't be able to make it. So my father arranged for medical air transportation from West Palm Beach to Jacksonville. Of course, that was not covered by insurance. So it was something that had to be paid for out of pocket. Now, fast forward, she's up in Jacksonville. She's at Brooks Rehab Center. She's really going through very aggressive and comprehensive rehab. She's making more and more improvements. And it was exciting to see the changes and the things that were happening. You know, as a family, we all prayed that God would provide her with a big miracle. And what we really meant by that was that we wanted God to heal her and restore her in such a way so that she would be whole and be able to walk again as she could before. And we realized and learned to be thankful for all the small miracles that we saw, We saw that, one, she survived. We saw, two, that she began to have movement. We saw her come off the ventilator. We saw her be able to do so much more than when she first started. So we learned to be very, very thankful for all the miracles that we did see. And you know, when you add those all together, it really is a pretty big miracle that we've seen thus far. And we're not done praying, because we're asking God to restore her and to continue to heal her and make her better. She's getting ready to come home, and we're all excited about her coming home. Realize her home isn't ready for her. So and what I mean is certain modifications, construction had to be done to the home to make it handicap accessible. Ramps had to be purchased so she could get in and out of the house. A handicap van had to be purchased so she could get in and out, be able to travel and go to doctor's appointments. So all those things were done. Not something that was covered by health insurance. So it was, again, more and more things continue to be dealt with out of pocket, outside the scope of insurance. Mom returned home the weekend before Labor Day, and it was certainly a very good welcome home, a very good homecoming. But still, she was in a state where she was much stronger, but still weak. Certainly not on a ventilator, and she was doing more and more, but still in a very, a very weak state. She continues today to be in a stronger state. She's been home now for actually almost 3 months now. She's getting stronger. She's doing better. She's got care that's required. She is. We have someone who comes in every night to help turn her every 2 hours. She's got to be turned frequently, as she can't reposition herself in the bed. We've got someone else who comes in the morning that spends approximately 6 hours a day, a licensed professional nurse that helps. And so those two individuals, as well as other family members, as well as my dad, have just been really angels for my mom and have taken incredible care of her. And I just want to take a minute to thank you, her church family, for all the prayers